I am in Photoshop and I closed out whatever I had so that I could just see just my Photoshop screen here. And yeah, let me just get the whole. All right, there. So when it first opens up, it wants to know, do I want to create something new? Do I want to open something, some old file that I had been using? Or not in these other options, right? I'm going to go to create new. You are not following along at this time. Just watch. Don't worry. Just watch what we're doing. You're going to be playing this around. So then under here, there are some custom sizes that we could work, or we could just kind of create our own size here. Most of us don't think in terms of pixels, so I'm going to go to inches here. I'm going to say a width of 8 inches and a height of 10 inches and a resolution of 150 pixels per inch. Do you know what resolution is? All right, so if you think of when you've heard of like an HD TV, and so you know that as meaning what? Right, high def, right? HD is for high def or high density. That's how many pixels per inch. So one time, televisions were, it wasn't pixels, it was points per inch or dots per inch, the DPI, especially when things used to be printed on presses with dots of inks, and it was dots per inch. We've been all going digital, so it's pixels per inch. So what that means is 150 pixels per inch. Is meaning if I have a square inch, there would be 150 pixels in that square inch. And then in the document, depending on however big the document, it's 8 inches by 10 inches, then you can multiply it out, and that's how many pixels per inch you would have. The higher that number, the higher the resolution, the more intense, the more definition you have, right? The clearer and more accurate that image would look. So something that was 1 pixel per 1 inch would be one giant dot on the screen. Right? Or not a giant dot. For us, it would look giant if I had it 1 inch. But 1 inch would be 1 dot, 1 pixel per inch. Why am I telling you, and why should you care? Photoshop is a raster program. It uses bitmap and raster images. So it uses dots per inch to make its image. If you find photos online to use and they are low quality, it will look low quality in Photoshop. If you use higher res images in Photoshop, your images will look cleaner and neater and nicer. When we start looking for images online to use in our projects, I will point this out again, and I will make sure that you understand how to find better, higher quality images if you don't already. The other reason I am telling you this is because at some point we will be using Adobe Illustrator, and Illustrator is a vector art program. It uses vectors. Does anyone know what a vector is? Anybody? Science, math, vector and vector points? Anyway, vector art does not use dots, and it can be scaled to any size without degradation. It does not lose any of that information. I'm going to hit create here for now. All right, so for us, for now, let's just think of resolution. Let's just care the fact that we want to have at least 150 pixels per inch in the resolution of our document, so that our documents, if we were to print them, would be pretty decent and working at a decent resolution. Most print media, things that you find like magazines, they are a minimum of 300 pixels per inch, closer probably to 480 pixels per inch. Things that are printed like magazines. All right, what did I thought I made an 8 by 10. Why does this look like a square? Yeah. Well, rectangle is a square. But that is a square. I can write down. It shows me that it's 1024 by 1024 pixels. So I don't know. I must not have put a 10 in there. Anyway, that's fine. All right, so here we have a document. We have some rulers up along here, and on the side, I'm going to show you a shortcut. Command R hides the rulers. Command R brings them back. When I am in class, I will often say out the shortcuts. One reason is I use shortcuts myself, If you learn shortcuts, it makes your time in Photoshop easier and faster, or any computer software. Like copy and paste is Command C and Command V. We are on Macs, so it's Command. If you are on a Windows PC or like at home, it is Control, but here it is Command. So Command C, Command V. That is universal in almost any program, right? In even Microsoft Word, Command C, Command V, copies and pastes, right? Command X will cut, by the way. That will just remove it. Not all programs have cut. But Command C, Command V to copy and paste. I'll leave some rulers here. We will learn, we'll do a project where rulers will matter. I'm going to just drag out, well, let's just look around a little bit at what's going on here in Photoshop. We have, the setup will look differently depending on who's been sitting in that chair and using Photoshop, right? So I have layers. These windows can be dragged out and made separate. These panels can be moved around. I can snap it back in, maybe somewhere else, right? I have brushes, paintbrush options. This is the history palette. So sometimes I will pull out, if I know I'm using my layer palette a lot, I might click it and just drag it out because I don't want to hide it, and then I can scale it and I can just kind of make it the size that I want. So if I know I'm going to use layers, then I might just pop that out. If I'm sick of that, I can either just exit, or like I said, I can snap it like back into another location. Alright, so those are windows of palettes. You can move those around. If this stuff gets lost, let's just drag out this and then close it. So it's gone. Layers is gone. Window up top here. Window, layers. Hey, look at that. Pulled up my layers. And then I can snap, put it back in place. If it all gets screwed up, or you come and sit down and somebody else screwed it up from the other class, we won't name names. Maybe we will if we need to. We can go to workspace, and I can say reset essentials, and it will reset to the basic how Photoshop would normally open up in the world. Close that. These are little arrows that close things. Anyway, so that will kind of bring it back to a default position. Okay, I'm going to drag out this little bar here, the toolbar. And just because I would just want to make it a little bit closer to where I'm working, so I don't have to travel so far for the video. This is a move tool. This first, we're just going to run down these tools. I'm not going to run down all the tools. I'm only going to do, I probably won't even do half of these tools because a lot of them we just don't really use, or we don't use right now. The move tool, I want layers back. All right, let's drag out our layers because they matter. All right. Notice this says background. It's kind of the default that comes in. Eyeball is on because it's locked. There's not really much we can do about that. If I go to the move tool and I click, it's going to give me a thing. There's nothing to move. I don't have anything on there. It's just a blank page. All right, so we will come back to the move tool when we actually make something, which is next. After that is a marquee tool. Marquee tool has a couple options. By the way, there's a little arrow in these corners. Not every tool, but most of the tools have a little arrow in the corner. That means there's more stuff. If I click the button, there's more stuff underneath it. So there's more options for the type of lassos, the type of marquee tool. So I'm going to start with the rectangular marquee tool. And if I click and drag, it makes a rectangular selection. This can be filled with a color. All right. Alt-Delete is a shortcut for fill, by the way, and I could fill with a paint bucket as well. And if I click with the marquee tool off, there's no longer anything selected. It is now just a red square on that background. Okay, I can make another selection, and if I hold my shift button down, hold on, I will get I should be getting a square, but that's okay. Square, I don't know. It could be my it could be, I think it's my monitor because I have it. Does that look like a square on there for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it looks kind of like, is it 8 by 10? Yeah, it's just my screen is squished. So that's why it looks like a square, but you guys do have a rectangle. It is an 8 by 10. What? Yeah, because I'm hooked up to the projector. It squished my screen. Alright, so I have something selected here. So what if I just go here and make that selected, come to my move tool. What? Move tool? Or back to the move tool already? Yes. And I can move that, right? Because it's a selection. So it's selected. It's now kind of considered floating. I could put it there, and then I'm going to take my Marquee tool and click again. Now it's not selected, and that thing is glued down. If I go to my move tool, I get an error. I can't move anything. All right, so that's selection tool. Ellipse, same thing, works like the marquee. You can make a selection, and that selection could then be moved, right? Or the selection can be filled. Pick a new color, Alt Delete. I filled it with blue. Command D, by the way, deselects. These are called marching ants in the Photoshop world. These little dots around there, it means that something is selected. Command D, now it's deselected, and it's just sitting there glued down. What else? What did I want to tell you about this? Oh, these selection tools. Look up here. When I'm on a tool, notice the toolbar up here changes. So you're gonna know. Sometimes I'm gonna tell you about something, and you're gonna say, Mr. Rady, I don't see what you mean about feathering. I'm gonna say, look up here. It says feather. So it says a feather of 5 pixels. So let's take a look. 0 pixel feather on this ellipse. And I'm gonna just drag it out, and you'll see it's a nice hard edge, right? Now if I feather that 20, I'm just going to put 20, it'll default to 20 pixels, and I'm going to hold my shift down and cut that out. Notice the soft edge. It's feathered. It has a feathered edge. So that's what the feathering means when we go to these tools. So let's say like the lasso tool with a feathered edge of 30. Draw a little blob there and fill it. Notice it has a very soft edge versus 0 pixels, like a little gingerbread man or an alien. Will it make him green like an alien? Alright, okay, there it is, and you can adjust the feathering. Okay, if I hold my shift button down, I can add to a selection. Look at that, I added to the selection. And so anyway, you can hold your shift button down and you can add to the selection. Alt Delete Fill. Okay, so that is that. Let's look at the polygon lasso or polygonal. What is that? How does we say that? Let's see. Polygonal lasso tool. That just means that you click for points. One lasso you just draw like your freehand drawing. This you click for points, and it makes little, so it can make polygon shapes, right? At the end, notice you get see that little circle? That means it's going to close the shape. So I close it. Alright. Filled it with white background color. Command A. Command A will select everything on that layer. Okay, Command A. Good to know. Oh, why did I do that? I will back up. Command Z is undo. Command Z is undo. It will undo like 15 or 16 times as the default. All right. This is good for Magic Wand. We're just going to look at the Magic Wand tool, not these other tools. Notice I didn't look at the magnet lasso. We'll deal with that specially in a whole special lesson. Magic Wand, though. Magic Wand selects by color. If I click here, notice, look at what it did. It grabbed the green. Sorry about that. So I could, move the little alien body around. Left his eyes behind. If I select here on the black, it's clicking on the black. Click here. It's selecting by color. Notice the tolerance. The tolerance is set to 30. So if I set this to 100, what do you think happens? Is it more or less tolerant now? More, right? We went from 30 to 100. So if it is more, here, this will be even easier to we'll jump over to a gradient. It's always easier to show this on a gradient. Jump over to there. All right. So let's go back to that Magic Wand tool. Let's turn this down to 20. And I'm going to click in the red. So it's grabbing this much red. So if I'm going to put this to 100, it is now more tolerant. Will it get more color or less color? More. So let's click again. And it did. So it's more tolerant of the color range. It's getting some pink in there and it's getting some orange in there. So it's not so strictly red, right? So click the yellow, it's yellow into red. If I turn this down to 10, it's going to be really narrow as to what amount of yellow or color it's going to pick. Put it up to, I think it maxes out at 300, I think. Yeah, so look at that. So 200, it's getting a lot of yellow, a lot of pink, like almost the whole thing. If I hold my shift button down, it'll get like everything, right? So in 3 clicks, I could get all those colors, right? Oh, but Miss Rady, just hit Command A, you get the whole page. Absolutely smart student. Command A would select the whole page. All right, moving along. That's the Magic Wand tool. That is good for when we start playing with the photos. Sometimes if something is on a blue sky and you want to get rid of the blue sky, you can click with the Magic Wand tool to select the sky to get rid of it, and things like that. Okay. Crop tool does just that. Crops your image. All right. It's not very exciting. Eyedropper tool. Yeah, I skipped one. We're not going to go over that tool right now. Eyedropper tool does just that. It selects the color that it clicks on. It's pretty simple. I think you have eyedropper tools and other programs. Healing brush. We're not going to deal with paintbrush. Let's look at the paintbrush here. Also, notice that Photoshop it's telling me stuff about the tools, right? Which is awesome. I think it's default turned on, and good, if that's helpful for you, fine. Otherwise, since I'm here talking to you, I'm doing that, but you won't always have me talking to you, so you can kind of go, what was that eyedropper thing again? Oh yeah, look, eyedropper picks colors. Okay, so I guess my point is, if you fall asleep listening to me, you can get this information other ways. All right, paintbrush. I am right-clicking, by the way. I'm right-clicking with my mouse, and I can adjust the size of the paintbrush. I can choose, there's different types of paintbrushes, and then I can paint. It also has the opacity and the flow. So I'm going to turn the flow up 100%, and then maybe down like 50%, and you can kind of see the difference, right? If I turn that flow way down, so let's make the size bigger. Alright, you can see it's just starting to. So that's basically the paintbrush, how it works. Okay, we will do some things. We will learn about how to make custom paintbrushes. We can make our very own paintbrushes. We can make paintbrushes out of images, actually. And we will do a whole little, we will learn about paintbrushes beyond this. Command A, what does that do? Selects everything on the page. And then Command Delete will fill with the background color. Alt Delete fills with the foreground color. Command Delete fills with the background color, which happens to be white right now. If I click on these little color changers, it picks different colors. I can pick yellow. Now if I hit Command Delete, it will fill with yellow, and Alt Delete fills with the foreground. Okay, so that's just some information for you. Command D deselects. Rubber stamp tool, I don't think I'll cover that now. History brush, not now. Eraser tool, this is important to learn. Miss Rady, how difficult could an eraser be? Well, the thing about the eraser is it looks like it's a paintbrush, doesn't it? Yeah. On the background layer, when you erase, it erases to whatever the background color is set to. So that sometimes screws people up if they have a photo and they're trying to erase something and it's just giving them a color or something. They're like, why doesn't my eraser work? The eraser is really for something that there's a layer of. Alright, so let's take this. Let's take the gradient, fill that, and now go to our eraser. And now it works like an eraser, right? So we can see that it's erasing. I can increase the size of that. And now it actually is erasing things. Okay, so that's good to know. The eraser is mainly built for when you have layers. How did I get that layer? It's a little layer maker, this little plus sign. Create a new layer, and it made a layer there. I want to get rid of that layer. I don't like that at all. I can just hit the trash can. It'll ask me, do you want to delete the layer? Yes. So I'm going to delete that layer. I'm going to put this back to white. and hit Command Delete and put that back to white for us. Gradient tool, we kind of already looked at it. We will use this in a project. If you have an area selected and you're at your gradient tool, which is underneath your paint bucket, so paint bucket fills just with whatever color is the foreground, right? Whereas the gradient tool, there are options for gradients, or the gradient tool can be whatever two colors you have selected. So I'm going to have, it's got this, let's just change this color. So now the gradient tool is purple and green. Click and drag and it will give you that gradient. There are others. This is a cylindrical gradient. Drag from the center, you get circle kind of stuff going on. Stars, starburst kind of thing. Straightforward linear gradient. Okay, so that's a gradient tool. Smudger, we're not going to worry about blur, smudge, we're not going to worry about that. Not going to worry about that. Not going to worry about pen tool yet. Type tool. Let's look at the type tool. Okay, Command D. Alright, so I am going to type here. I'm going to change these colors back to black and white. I'm going to click. Art is awesome. Obligatory comment. Oh, look at that. I have a typo. Alright, so what can I do? I just go back to my type tool, click on my type, and there, okay? And I can edit my type. I can scale my type. Command T is the transform command. Command T. Don't worry, I will repeat these things many times throughout your class time with me. But Command T for transform. You can actually rotate. All right. Hit escape and it ends it. So Command T, transform, scale it up. Double click and it made it so. Art is awesome. And notice it has a T because it's a type layer. Notice when I typed, it made its own new type layer. Yeah, because this is actually vector art temporarily. It is not resolution dependent. And you can only do some things to a type layer. You can't draw on it. If I go to my paintbrush, it's got a do not sign. I cannot draw on a type layer. I can go back to my background and draw, but I cannot draw on a type layer. And there's some other things you can't do to a type layer, but for now, that's fine. Type tool, and I am almost done. This direct selections tool has to do with paths. Line tool, we don't care about that. The hand tool. I'm going to show you this because you will never use the hand tool again. I will show you why. So by the way, and the magnifying glass tool. These both go hand in hand. Haha, pun intended. Magnifying tool. Yeah, you could select this tool and come over and zoom in. And then you could hold your Alt key down to get the minus sign. You could do that. Or, no matter what tool you're on, spacebar and Command key will zoom. Spacebar and Alt key will zoom you out. You never have to again. Or some people like to, I think, Command page up and down. Yeah, Command plus and Command minus on your keyboard. Alright? So, all depending on who you are, but I never go to the magnifying glass. I just use my shortcuts, Command and spacebar, and zoom in. Alright, how about that hand then? What is it for? The hand is if I'm zoomed in, because I'm doing some detail work on this word awesome, and I'm looking at this and I want to, oh wait, what's the rest of the word? And I'm moving around my hand tool. Okay, a whole separate tool for that? Lame. Right, so Photoshop has a workaround, especially what if I'm using my paintbrush and I'm on the background here and I'm doing some special detail painting. I don't want to keep going back down to the hand tool just so that I can move around with my paintbrush. No, spacebar. Spacebar will temporarily turn into a hand so you can paint. Spacebar, move around, spacebar turns into a hand. See that? So you will never use you'll never use the hand tool again. Hopefully now you know that when you are zoomed in, you just hit the spacebar and you can move yourself around all you want, do all the detail painting you want. Spacebar, Alt key, zoom out. Spacebar, Command key, zoom in. I think the CO2 from the mask is getting to my brain. So, with that said, yeah, and these, obviously, you can figure out these are colors, right? You click on that, and you can pick the color foreground and background. You can flip your colors foreground and background. If you want black and white back, you just hit this. Black and white are now back as the defaults. That is the tools. We are